Welcome to the Radiantpreneur Rising Show with me, Jess Tomlinson. Interviews to inspire a new movement of leaders and entrepreneurs. The ones who lead with vulnerability and authenticity, stand in visibility, allowing themselves to truly be seen, are fierce and playful and sexy. Choose business as a spiritual practice. Seek collaboration versus competition. No, giving back is not an option. It's a necessity. They do it their way. They radiate. They rise. Now, let's rise together. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Radiantpreneur Rising Show. I am Jess Tomlinson. I'm so excited to bring back the first person I brought back, actually. The first time we were a threesome, and now we're just a twosome. I have my dear, dear friend, one of my closest friends, biz bestie, person that I love and adore so much. And it feels super weird to be doing this over Zoom, because now that I'm in Vegas and we're 45 minutes away. But here we are. So welcome, Adria DeCorte. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I know I just had you on my podcast really recently, so it feels really nice to then go and turn the tables and get to do this conversation today. So I'm so excited.
I know, continuing the convo. It's like we could have so many of these and never run out of things to say, because that's just how we are. So I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm so glad to have you back. And we're sending love to our other biz bestie, Melissa Harmon, who was on the other episode with us. And yeah, I'm just so excited to anchor into a discussion around your zone of genius, which is messaging, and just see where this conversation takes us. But first, I do want you to answer the one question. I don't know if you remember what it is, but it's, how are you currently leaning into your visibility edges in your life and your business right
now? Oh my goodness. So I would say the way right now at this moment that I'm leaning into those edges is really, I think, continuing. This might have been what I shared last time, I don't remember, but is continuing to show up as I am and not attach judgment to that when I'm being visible, whether that's on social media or, in my newsletter, in different programs I'm running, whatever that may be, to just see myself as a messenger, and there's not any specific way a messenger needs to look. And so if I feel kind of shy and introverted and not super bubbly that day, and I just have this quiet energy, then showing up with that. Or if I feel excited, I get to show up with that, and then not feel like I have to be a certain way in order to call in my people, or in order to be a leader or be a messenger.
now? Yeah, so good. This is everything I care about. And so it's just so fun to hear you share that, and to also witness how you share on social media now. It's so different than before, not good or bad, not judging it, but different in the way of I even read your post yesterday that I loved, you sharing that insight behind the scenes of the first time you ran the challenge, which I know you have coming up, your message clarity challenge. But I remember that time in your life, because you had shared you were going through the divorce, you were living with your mom or your parents, and you ran this first challenge. And we were friends then, and I was on the journey with you. And so it was so cool seeing just you sharing that part of your life in the way that you do. And I just so appreciate how you share these snippets of really meaningful stories and behind the scenes on social media.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel like that's been a strong intention of mine lately for myself.
Yeah.
Really, for myself to, especially as like if I want to think about this kind of launch or like this challenge promotion and things I've been doing leading up to my mastermind, at the time this airs, my challenge will have happened the week before, but we can
Oh,
tell you
right. Yeah.
challenges. And so like, I want to, like, there's this intention of, okay, visibility right now is important. And this is a time to like allow myself to be seen. Whereas I'm an introvert and it can get a little quiet sometimes. And I'm like, well, this is a time for me to lean into using my voice. And so for me, it was part of this intention for myself of how do I start to show things that feel really present for me in that moment and maybe take people inside of it, or like let marketing and visibility be one, my own medicine. I know we talked about this when you came on my show, but also let it be like a form of my own self-expression, because when I'm like being real and sharing things and they're the same kind of experiences other people have, then it like ends up creating connection and it's not contrived and I'm just sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Would you be able to like break down, like, how do you, because I'm guessing a lot of people struggle with this, right? Like, I know, I mean, even we do sometimes, right? We're like, what do we share on social media? Like, you can either have like so much that you want to share, or you can feel like you have nothing that you know, like your well has run dry. And so for you, in the way that you have been able to show up and share these beautiful snippets of your life, like, what is kind of your process, or like, you know, can you take us behind the scenes on what that looks like for you?
Yeah, I can use I think a great example would be during this promotion period where I have had the intention to share every single day and yet not had this stuff created in advance.
Yeah.
Because there's just been so many pieces. I had the intention of having an assistant to help me kind of repurpose some things for this latest launch and the challenge I'm running. You know, this is my 10th challenge. So it's like, there's a lot to use that someone else could do, but I didn't, so it's been me like doing all the pieces, which I'm used to, but it was a different intention that I had. So I didn't have things prepared. And I feel like it's been a really great gift in a way, because I didn't have the space to like say at the beginning of the week, be like, okay, I'm going to sit down and like write all the posts for this week. And so every single day, like, even though I'm, you know, engaging with people coming into my Facebook group for the challenge, or even though I'm thinking of, okay, you know, am I going to go on Facebook Live today? Or let me write the daily emails and create the exercises. Like, I have all these pieces to do, or let me finish like this intensive clients messaging. I've still been each day needing to kind of like, okay, like, what am I going to say on social media so that I can like lean into that visibility and lean into being seen each day and kind of sharing my heart and sharing my message. And so for me, I think a couple of things have been what's worked for me. So, and I first want to say that the whole like not having anything to say, or kind of not knowing what quite to say, or having a little bit of a blank, like a wall of like, what do I talk about? I totally get it, because I feel like that's what I felt this past week. Even though I'm like a very expressive person, I'm very talkative, I always have something to say. This past week, I've definitely felt like blank a lot, where I'm like, okay, I need to say something today. And there's that pressure, right? That pressure, I feel like can shut things down really easy. So for me this past week, it's been like sometimes I'll just kind of, if I feel that blankness, I'll go away and do something else. And then maybe like wait during the day for some kind of inspiration to come up. And maybe the inspiration isn't a full post, but it's like something that I'm like excited about that day, or something that like I'm feeling some feels or something that happened the week before, or whatever it may be. And then when I kind of have that hit of like just the nudge of something, then I sit down and I just start writing and see what comes out. And like the whole messy first draft is a real thing, like, because I'm an editor. And so if I edit as I go, like, it'll never get out of my head. So like, I just like let it come out and see what it is. After it's out, like on a Google Doc, I see what was there. And then I start to see like, oh, what was like the lesson here. And then kind of pull that out of it and kind of then I shape it so it like feels really good for people to go through. And then, if it's an
Which is which I just have to say, I want to pause you because that is a really important part. Like, what is the lesson? And I feel like that is the piece that a lot of people forget when you are wanting to serve people. Like there is, there's all types of posts, but the really powerful ones that will shift mindset or get people to take an action, such as like signing up for, a program or a session or whatever. It's like that lesson that you're wanting them to get. That's where you then step into leadership and they get to, have their own experience around whatever your lesson was. So I just wanted to like highlight that because you do that so well, Adria. I love it. And so really important, I think, for people watching.
Yeah, I'm glad you called that out. It's one of, so if you're someone who's on the other side of things, and you feel like you have so much to say that like the point gets lost, this is like often the shadow side of what I call the expressive messenger, which I definitely am. And I know you've typed as, but I don't know if this is always your issue because you are very good at like having a point.
Sometimes, maybe not.
But if you are someone who kind of is like, there's so much, that's like often the advice that I give is, okay, like kind of start to curate what you're sharing and see, have one point per thing. Like what's the aha moment I want someone to take away in this post or this video or this fill in the blank, whatever it is, podcast episode. And that can be like so powerful because we can kind of take in one shift at a time.
Yeah. This is so good. I mean, so what I'm hearing to just kind of summarize everything is like, it's okay to not have everything totally mapped out, but what you do want to do is make sure that you are capturing those moments of inspiration so that if you are feeling something or you get a spark, that you're not just kind of saying, oh, whatever, I'll remember it later, because we all know that life gets busy. And like, I know when I get my nuggets of wisdom in the shower, I'm still figuring out like, how do I do this? But oftentimes, like as soon as I'm out of the shower, I have to go immediately and like write stuff down on my computer because that's where I get like all my ideas. And if I don't do that, I totally will lose it. So really, really great for advice from Adria, you guys, that like pulling up your phone and taking notes when you get those hits. And then the second thing I'm hearing is well, of course there's the lesson, but then the other big piece is knowing yourself. And I know we talk about this a lot. We've had those conversations around like just knowing how you best create, especially when we're talking about like content or creating like a social media post or an email to your list. And so like for you, it sounds like, well, I know you so well, so it doesn't sound like I know that you get everything out. And then you're like this little like wizard of like, I'm going to take this out and I'm going to move this. And like, I've watched you do it, even when we were at Thrive, which is a community that Adria and I are both part of for entrepreneurs and transformational leaders. Like you were working on your challenge and then your program that is coming up. Like you were just like, like moving it around on the document. And it was just so impressive. And for me, I just can't do that. Like I have to literally sit with like the and wait for it to all get organized in my mind first, which sounds a little crazy to some people, but for me it's the thing that works. It's how I'm in flow. I have to organize it in my brain. Once I can see it clearly in my mind, then I just can have the download. And then from there, like I can take out pieces, but I can't organize. It's just not like I can do it for other people, but for me and my messaging, it just comes out chronologically. So like, then it just totally blocks me. So I'm sharing all this so that everybody can get like a snapshot of, right, like two different kind of styles of creation, and most of all, like not judge themselves, right? Or like how they create or the way that they should.
Yeah. I love that. There's like so many ways to create, and there's so many ways to be a messenger too. Like that there's not one way that you need to look or talk or act or be or show up, and you can still be a leader and you can still be a messenger, and you just have your way.
Yeah.
And embracing your way is like going to be what allows you to step into it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd love to hear just kind of your definition of like what is a messenger, in case people are like, what are they talking about? Which I don't think they will be, but you know, you never know. We want to explain things for y'all. And then like maybe we can go into your archetypes, the different messenger archetypes, and explain those because I feel like that'll be really
Ooh, fun. Okay.
fun.
So first of all, so when my definition of messenger, because I know there's probably a lot of different definitions out there, but when I think of a messenger, I think of someone who has something to say, someone who cares really deeply about a message that they have to share with the world. So think of like a TEDx speaker, a TED speaker, and I guess that's really the most important part. They care really deeply and they have something to say, and then they do the often courageous thing of starting to say it, starting to share it. And so a lot of time my work deals with women messengers and the connection between being that messenger, being that someone who has a message to share with the world and like wants to create this shift or this ripple effect in the world with your message and with kind of like the shift you want to make in people's actions or perspectives or whatever that is, if you think about a TED talk. So the person who has that, but also wants to combine kind of that purpose work with their money work. So basically said, is a business owner. And so a lot of times that is coaches, there's like other service-based business owners building their business online who are the face of their brand. And so when I think of messenger, it's kind of within that realm of you have something to say, like something to share with the world, and you're making it your business. Because when you make it your business, then you get to do it full time or, you know, however many hours you have to give and create a bigger ripple effect with the world. So, so that's my definition of messenger when we're talking about this. And
I just
really,
want to let everybody know before we move on that if you guys are curious about TED Talks, like what we're referring to there. So Adria actually did a TEDx talk at one of the 3 TEDx women events that I produced alongside my co-leader, Alexia Vernon, and we can link that show from your podcast in the show notes below. If you guys want to check out, Adria interviewed me about being a TEDx producer. And so you guys can kind of hear the behind the scenes if you're curious about doing something like that. So just wanted to interject that before I forgot.
Yeah, that's right. That will be a helpful thing to listen to, because Jess spilled like all these ideas on, you know, if you want to audition, like your application, like all that kind of stuff for like actually getting your message out there on a TEDx stage. So yeah. Totally.
Cool.
Yeah. So should we talk about archetypes, messenger archetypes?
Let's do that. And what I'm thinking, because it'll be fun for us to kind of like jam on each, maybe like share like one, and then we like have a little dialogue about like our experiences, or if we can like resonate with certain pieces, and then we like move on to each. Yeah.
Perfect.
Sound good?
Thank,
okay, cool.
Thank you for that note, because you know that I can just like keep going forever.
I know. I'm like, they can just listen to your podcast.
Yeah, I'll just
learn about all the archetypes like without a conversation, right? Because you do such a good job explaining them. You're super fun to listen to. So I felt like maybe we can bring a little something different to just having a conversation around them. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So let's first talk about the expressive, since we started to like dip into that a moment ago. So the expressive archetype. Oh, and let me just preface the archetypes. I want to say the messenger archetypes, because I know you have your awesome archetypes too. So the messenger archetypes are like, essentially I created this, honestly, it was kind of like a download from the universe or something, but these different messenger archetypes that were all the things that I was seeing through the last several years of working with different messengers, working with different women on their messaging, on their message, in my masterminds, and there was these themes that I saw coming up and how they were showing up and the different challenges and struggles they had. There was 5 different themes. And so those themes became the messenger archetypes. And the reason, like, this feels so important to me, and like, I just have a lot of emotion and passion around this, is because I think this whole conversation we've been having, that I don't want any woman who has a message to share to feel like she's not what a messenger looks like. And so she can't share her message. And so the goal of these archetypes, and really what it's done based on the feedback I've gotten from people so far, is like to help you kind of identify where you might be dominant, and then kind of ease into, oh, okay, that's why I feel this way. And to kind of normalize and feel like, okay, you know, this is just like how I show up. It's like my dominant archetype, and there's nothing wrong with it. And this is how I can use it as a superpower, instead of like thinking that those quirks I have are actually like something wrong with me. They're actually the thing that's going to make me like an even more powerful messenger. So,
yeah.
I felt like I
love
love
that.
that.
I love that. That's the same language I use with my archetypes too. Like, it's your dominant, and the true authenticity is alignment with like what's true for you and how you integrate different pieces of your unique self-expression, right? So I love that we're really aligned in caring so deeply about people being seen and not feeling like they have to like push or change, and like just remembering, I don't even know, I read this post on social media the other day and it just like didn't feel good, and it said something like, you need to be enthusiastic, and I'm like, and what's funny is I am like, that's like really natural for me, but it just feels like tension when you tell somebody that they have to be like that. Like, you don't have to. And we all have a natural ability to be enthusiastic around the things that we're really aligned with, but it's going to look different for everyone. So I just wanted to share that too. I'm like, I know me and you can resonate on that. Like, no shitting.
No. Oh yeah. For like the longest time, that was my internal advice to myself. They're like, you need to be enthusiastic. And so I would like start a video and I would like pump myself up, and I would be like all this energy. And I'm someone who's very enthusiastic as well. But it was like this very fake thing, which was draining, and which wasn't how I needed to, like, I didn't have to always be that way. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, the performing versus the just sharing. Share. Awesome. Okay, so let's get into the expressive first archetype of the 5.
So the expressive is a messenger who maybe kind of has a lot of things to say, and often it's kind of like all spills out of her, or there's like all these different threads, and so a lot of times it's really beautiful because she has a lot of passion, like talking about being enthusiastic, like her passion is her superpower. But the shadow side can often be that like people are like trying to piece through like, what's the point here, or like, you know, what's my takeaway? And so sometimes like the power of the message she's sharing gets lost in all of the things. So that's the expressive, which I think you and I are both part expressive as well as part other things too.
Totally. Yeah. And it's so true. I mean, I definitely know that my weakness is editing. I get very attached to like, no, this is my complete thought, because that's just, again, like how I think. I think from start to finish. And this is like, all pieces are important. And I get so attached to like this, you know, oftentimes lengthy thing. It's really nice when it downloads and it's like not too lengthy. Like, that's really handy. But sometimes it is really long. And I think like what I just know is that I need other people to be able to like hone down my stuff, because it's torture for me to be able to do it. It's like the tortured artist thing in me. It's like, no, this is perfect, blah, 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 you know, whatever like thing I'm attached to. So like just sharing this, if any of you are like me out there, like I think it's really handy to just get somebody else to do your editing. Like if you're a great writer, like I love writing, like I can write all day, I can write for other people, but the editing for myself is just painful. So get somebody to do it for you. Do you have any thoughts around that, Adria?
Well,
Yes.
I'm just like so fascinated by like what you were saying before, the difference in how we work. Like, because I am like totally the editor, and I love how you can like how you're much more internal person than me in terms of like the processing and all that kind of stuff, whereas I'm very external, and so it's like I have to get it out of me, and then you're doing it all in here, and then it comes out, and I think that's really beautiful.
Because it would be torture for you to like try to figure it all out.
Oh yeah, I can't even. I have a busy brain, and it's not even possible.
Yeah, right.
My brain is just like, where am I?
Yeah, the architect in you needs to like see it, and Adria,
that's
architect
true.
Degree, everyone.
Right. My architecture background. Yeah, I need to see it and then shape it, and like my on my how to fascinate.
Yes.
Advantage. I'm the editor in chief. So,
yeah, I know.
So
I love that.
And which is awesome, because like I've seen what you've created and it's beautiful. Like I mean we've led programs together, we've done launches together, and like the things that just like come out of you, I'm like, oh my gosh. but you know, and then my work, a lot of it when I'm working on messaging for clients, a lot of it is using my editing abilities and kind of like honing and shaping, and like a lot of clients who come to me are the expressive, and some of the other archetypes we're going to be talking about. And a lot of times when I get an expressive client, it's like this dump of information or this, like, there's all these things, and it's like, okay, like finding the pieces in there and then honing and then shaping, and then suddenly like, bam, there's this thing that you didn't see, but it's actually inside.
Yeah, I love that about you. You're so good at shaping and molding and like really just like picking out the most important pieces and like culling it down. Like there's such a gift in being able to do that for like the potency, like what you're talking about, right? Like, so if you're somebody that feels like you're just like, bleh, and your message is just like kind of all over the place, and people are maybe like, what? Like, I'm so inspired by you, but what do you do? Probably the expressive. Go take Adria's quiz.
Yes, totally.
We'll link in the show notes.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, being the expressive, I think that it's been the side of things of like feeling like I have something to share, like that, like voice needing to come up, like I need to talk, and just like needing to like use my voice has been a really big part of my experience of being the expressive. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Yay. Okay, what's the next archetype?
All right. So let's talk about the free spirit.
Okay.
So the free spirit is a messenger who let's see, who what they do is who does this. Who what they do is like really hard to explain in language that people get. So like a lot of times this is life coaches or healers, and so it's like the language that the free spirit uses is very kind of ambiguous and flowery, and speaks to like things that aren't very, it's hard to make tangible, like
esoteric.
Yeah, very like woo, esoteric, or just like inner stuff, like even the words like speak your truth, or tap into your inner wisdom, or like all these different things that are like beautiful in themselves. Mm-hmm. But then when
those a lot.
and they're beautiful and they're still good, but then like nothing's bad or good, but like they're still powerful. But then once you get into your messaging deeper, there's like a layer of grounding and a layer of like concreteness that isn't there. The shadow side of the free spirit, and so like people don't always get it, and kind of they scratch their heads a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like I think the difference here is like for example, that's not my main message. Like my main message is like, you know, if we wanted to boil it down to one sentence, is self-expression is a strategy. Mm-hmm. Right. Like that's like my main message. And that's not like, I use language like, you know, tap into your inner power and speak your truth. Like I definitely use that, But if those are your main message, this is really what I'm hearing you say, Adria, and you can let me know if I'm right or wrong. It's like, if that's your main message, it's like, huh? Like, that's awesome. And ooh, I want that, but like, I'm not really going to pay you to have that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're actually, I would say that you're an example of someone who's partly dominant in the free spirit, but like is using it really well. Like
Mm.
you are using the superpower of your archetype, and you've kind of like progressed beyond the shadow side.
Yeah.
um, because you have like the combination of both. You still have the heart and the energy, and like you're expressing, you're not cutting off expressing yourself in those ways with the kind of really beautiful lyrical type language, but you
Mm.
also have the messaging that's like, here's what it is. Like
Yeah.
you also have the really visual messaging that says like, this is what your life looks like, this is how you're feeling right now, this is like what you wish would be happening instead, and like
Yeah.
all that just really grounded part two. And yeah, so that like that's what starts to create a lot of power when you're the free spirit.
You know what I think is interesting? I just had a little aha. How for a while I stopped using stuff like that. Like, I got so much into like the like, I need to speak directly to the problem I'm solving.
Mm.
And like, oh my God, that did not feel like me. And it also didn't like welcome people into working with me, because I am like, more of that kind of free spirit energy. And that's what's authentic for me. Like, I just realized there was like a period where I was just like speaking to the just problem result with no flowery language. And it's really interesting, like how I let myself go there. But it, so I think I'm sharing this because if you're in that place, any of you watching, it's like, it's okay. And the key is noticing, right? And being able to integrate, like we keep talking about with these different messenger archetypes, like integrate, be aware of the shadow side, integrate your gift, and come into alignment with it. And I think the example for me was like Danielle Laporte's emails, like they're very like big ideas, and I resonate with like the way that she writes, and like that's like part of my soul, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why I started integrating that again, was because I was noticing how I was feeling when I was reading her emails. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm missing this piece. Like, people must be reading my emails like boring, or like, So just wanted to bring that up.
Oh my gosh, I love that awareness so much. I feel like this is helping me, like just this processing and talking about these things is helping me go even a layer deeper into my understanding of the archetypes.
Yeah,
But
right?
like I love that because that's one of the things I've really noticed, because it's happened for me too, where I've been in periods of my own messaging where I've been like trying to be really strategic and I need to say what people want and like all this stuff, and then it strips out the emotion and it strips out the like the soul of it. And so yeah, such a good point that's like that's so important. So as we're honing our messaging, like honing the messaging, getting clarity, shaping things, like all that stuff is really important. But as you're doing it, just remember that it's not about like removing you or removing the heart and soul of what you're saying.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's go on to the third.
Okay. So I want to talk about the sensitive soul because it's really personal to me.
Yeah.
So the sensitive soul is the messenger who feels a little bit shy to share. So maybe like when you're about to post online, you have your finger kind of hovering over the publish button and you're like, should I? And there's like all these like internal dialogue going on. And then finally you push it. And then afterwards you're like, were people upset by what I said? Was this good enough? Like, is anyone listening? Like there's all this internal swirl, and that ends up can end up with this is all the shadow side, can end up leading to not sharing as much, and this messenger, her voice not being heard as much as we would love this world. But the superpower at the same time is that this shy or introverted or quiet messenger is also someone who has a lot of empathy and who people feel like they can easily open up to and feel safe to share with. And so that makes a sensitive soul really powerful, especially as a coach, or especially, you know, as a messenger, when the sensitive soul kind of moves through all of those internal pieces and starts to share, that what they're sharing can create a lot of resonance and safety with people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that. I like how you call it the sensitive soul versus like, because what I hear when you describe it is like this archetype can apply to like probably all of them, where we all have those, you know, the other way to describe it would be like we have inner gremlins, right? That like beliefs that of like self-worth, or like, oh my God, what are people going to think? Or like, am I going to offend somebody? Or are people going to think I'm good enough? You know, all of those things that all of us deal with in one way or another. And I like how you created an empowering title of the sensitive soul and really like brought it into the heart. Cause I think that that allows other people to kind of like embrace it more, right? And really like feel the power behind it.
Yeah. 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 And to be honest, the sensitive soul was the first archetype. It was the one I started with because it's super personal to me. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
partly dominant in the sensitive soul myself. And I guess I should specify that with like the whole, that being the sensitive soul is being dominant in it, like we said earlier. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of, I would say, a lot of people who come to me who, you know, take the quiz, who join my masterminds, they are the sensitive soul.
Is
But
that the
sometimes,
majority of what people get?
actually it is. So I'm like,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
it has been the dominant result. And then after that, expressive and the free spirit. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah.
And, but I would say that most people, like a lot of people who come my way, maybe they're not dominant in the sense of soul, but it's like a sub
Mm-hmm.
category, just because it's how I show up. And it's a lot, I've been talking a lot about, you know, what it means to be a quiet leader and being shy and introverted and still using your voice. And so I feel like I'm starting to step more and more into my own sensitive soul, which I feel like is creating a safer space for other people who feel that way to come into my world, listen to my
Totally.
podcast, all of that stuff. But I have it as an archetype because sometimes that is like the dominant thing, because all of these are guides for like how to step into your messengership. I don't know if that's a word, but I've been using it a lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I felt like it needed to be its own archetype, so like you said, so we could claim that. Because a lot of times, especially when you're the sensitive soul, you tend to think of all these things as negative. You tend to think of being sensitive or being quiet or shy or worrying about all these different things as being like things that take away from your leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I feel like that's really important claiming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. And it makes sense to me that this was the first one that came to you just since you've been on that journey of not that long ago, actually embracing this part of you and like having this aha of like, oh, like, you know, this is part of you that you wanted to own more of, like being sensitive and shy. So like I'm curious with this one, if you could share a little bit around how you've been integrating, like
Mm.
how have you been working through the sensitive soul archetype for
Mm.
yourself?
Yeah. So I think one of the big things I've been doing as a sensitive soul, well, one is as I'm sharing, is just allowing myself to share something that feels real and true to me,
Mm-hmm.
and to use one of the top things that I give to people who are the sensitive soul as kind of a tool or like a way to move through all of this is to tap into how, like, why you care so freaking much about this. Tap into your care, because I think the sensitive soul, that's like one of their superpowers, is caring so much. And when you feel that, when you like remember that, and maybe that's a journaling practice, maybe that's whatever it is, I like to use the mantra, my message is more important than my discomfort.
Mm.
Um, but when you tap into that, it's like a well of courage to speak. And so if when I'm sharing, I remember that, I tap into my care, then like pressing publish on something that might feel a little bit vulnerable or a lot bit vulnerable
Mhm.
comes easier, because I'm like, okay, someone needs to hear this.
Mhm.
And then on the other side, once I press publish, tapping in again and like kind of setting an intention, like this message is reaching who it needs to reach.
Mhm.
Those kinds of things I feel like have been really powerful for me.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm thinking of a couple clients that I had that it was so fascinating to me because I just don't think this way. And I am a pretty sensitive person. I know, like I think we both have Cancer rising, right?
Yeah, Cancer
Yeah.
rising. Yeah.
So that's like how the world sees us, is like, nurturing and sensitive, in our astrology, just FYI people. Um, so like I definitely have this like nurturing, like, like heart piece. But when it comes to like social media, what I found was really fascinating when I was walking some of these clients through this is both of them had said, I just don't want to do harm
Mhm.
when I put this out there. And I was like, oh, because my mind, like, and maybe it's just the rational side of me, can immediately see like how it's going to do more good than harm. Like, I guess I just trust to believe that. And yet it's very real fear, I realized, for a lot of people that are putting themselves out there in their visibility and using their voice. It's like they're really scared that they're going to hurt people with their message. Do
Mhm.
you have any thoughts around that? I mean, I know how I walked them through it, but I'm curious, like for you, like how would you walk somebody through that?
Yeah. I know this conversation, I feel like it's come up a few times in the last few months in different groups I've been in. And I feel like, and so I'm not an expert on this,
Okay.
but
It's okay. We're always in exploration,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
but I can share that the experts leading the conversation said that harm happens, like that we can actually avoid doing harm, and if we lead our lives avoiding doing harm, it doesn't change the outcomes, it just dampens our voice. That's my own opinion, not the experts.
Yeah.
and so I feel like that is like a consideration to realize, is that like it's like hard to avoid doing harm, um if like, because it's not really in our hands always. Like we can be as intentional as we can be like really aware,
Mhm.
but once we start to like, and maybe the next archetype we can talk about is the inspirer, because this feels very connected to that. But once we start to censor ourselves based on worry about harm, or not share based on worry about harm, then like the people who need to hear it, like you said, the people who need to hear what we have to say aren't hearing it. And so
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I like kind of hold. I know it's not very positive, but
I know. I feel like I've heard the conversation, maybe this is what you're referring to, intent versus impact.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you heard any like dialogues about that on
A
in
little
our
bit.
okay, in our communities? I've heard this be brought up, and it actually did shift my way of thinking because I was like, well, as long as your intent is good, it's fine. That's always been me, right? Like as long as you have a good intent. And yet there is this piece around being a responsible leader, like if we were to look at the other side, where it's like, yes, have the best intent. Don't let that, hold you back or feel like you need to not express yourself or share your message, because it will help a lot of people. And it's going to help a lot more people by being out there than being inside your heart, right? And yet this piece around like impact is like, well, and if for some reason your message does, create some sort of an effect, we'll just call it an effect, right? Because the way that I like to look at it is it's really, we never know people's paths. Like, and I have to tell myself this, right? As like a leader, and I'm sure you do too, Adria, it's like if people do have some sort of a reaction, like I have to trust that like if they come to me, I can do my best to clean it up and to, you know, show compassion, and we can have a conversation around it. And we sometimes don't know people's paths, like what is actually in their highest good. Like maybe they were supposed to experience whatever they experienced, and who are we to call that like good or bad? It doesn't mean that I want like people to have like, you know, some sort of like triggered response. However, sometimes that's, I mean, and I've been on the other side of this, so you know, I can like look at it from like, it doesn't always feel good, and it's like can be really hard. And it's like we just have to come back to that place of like doing the best we can, you know, cleaning up things if they do turn south the best that we can, and surrendering it to the highest good for people's paths.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like kind of heavy. We're going heavy, y'all. But it's like, this is like true leadership and being a messenger. It's like, we got to deal with these kind of things and think them through and feel them and like surrender it, or else we'll just like stay stuck. It's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. With when we're sharing, like one of the things, okay, so one of the things, not to go further deeper into this, but one of the things that comes up for me, like with the harm side of things, and then I had something else around what you were saying and I lost it. See, this is that whole Adria not being internal in her head and needing to like,
you need a notepad.
I need a notepad.
Maybe it'll come back.
But it feels like the conversation that like really is in the back of my brain and comes to mind with the like doing harm is like around all like the conversation around racism. Mm-hmm. And how like being white, that like I can't not be like, it's just everything, it's inherent in everything. And so doing harm, like by things you say or actions you take or ways you show up, like that there's a potential for some level no matter what. And this is what was told, like what, mm-hmm. This is in my own kind of learning exploration. Mm-hmm. So work in progress. But just realizing that like continuing to grow and do better and like learn more and see the places where like things can change and shift and grow and evolve. And like, mm-hmm. I think that's the part where you're saying like the impact is, yeah. Where it's not just like my intention is this, you know?
Yeah.
I felt like I wanted to share that.
Yeah, partially. Yeah. Thanks for just calling that out, because that's a huge piece of what we're talking about. And what I was actually talking about was more spiritual entrepreneurs that come to me for help that were afraid of doing like spiritual harm. It was very interesting, like the way of thinking. You know, sometimes we can go so over the top of like, I'm a spiritual person and do no harm and good vibes only. And so I think that was kind of the programming. But I love that you brought up, just you called it out, this very important piece that yes, we're both exploring around how do you show up as the majority or a white woman, right? Or a white person in this industry when you're sharing and continuing to learn and be open to feedback. And like, do you know, I have a question.
Okay.
Do you remember when Danielle Laporte had her whole thing happen?
I wasn't like, I knew when it happened, but I didn't really follow a lot of it. And I also want to say, like, you can fill in the blank for anything here. Like, we're talking specifically racism, but you can fill in the blank with like so many different, whatever a topic is that you might be scared to do harm. That just happened to be like what's top of mind, because I've been having a lot of conversations this year around it.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I mean, I just want to quickly note, and then we'll come back to the Danielle Laporte thing, just for those of you who don't know what happened. But yeah, like what came to me just now is like, if you're in the health industry and you're giving people advice around their health, that could feel like a heavy weight of like, oh gosh, like I know that this could help people. And so there's lots of different things you can do, you know, when you're a coach to protect yourself, but also like invite other people to make sure that they're seeking out the medical help that they need, and you're not a doctor and all that jazz. But I know we've walked people through that, Adria, in our programs. So I just wanted to call that piece out. But to come back around to the Danielle Laporte piece, what had happened with her was she was putting out a program called Lighter, and her imagery for how she was promoting it was just called the attention of people of color, like, forward, to be like, this is like not okay. First of all, the name is Lighter, but the imagery was like a Black person fading into white. Like, it was like so the intent was probably good, right? Like, Danielle does a lot of good work in the world, and yet the imagery and like the stuff was just off. And I believe what happened, which this is, an interesting conversation that we're just kind of going down this rabbit hole. We'll get back to that. Messenger
And we are not experts at this.
Yeah,
we are just having the conversation.
Yeah. I think they got it. But it was, I think what happened was she just took all of the posts down, like didn't address any of the comments, just like shoot, almost as if it like never happened. So that also caused a big stir. And from my perspective, like specializing in, leadership coaching, it's like, that is like absolutely the worst thing you can do, is just wipe it away. So I'm just
an opportunity.
It's an opportunity. Yes. I'm sharing this because it kind of comes back to this whole piece of like the sensitive soul, right? And like, so if for some reason like you're afraid to like, cause harm, or you're afraid of like how people might receive your message, like just know that there's always a way that you can come back to that beautiful sensitive soul of yours and your heart and clean things up. And yes, we're all learning this together. And there's lots of examples of how not to do it. So let's all keep learning. Really. I think it's like
Yes, absolutely. And I did remember what I was going to say earlier, so that's good. And I think that's a good segue to that. Yeah, and I want to say too, like when we're talking about this like whole learning piece, like something like what happened with Danielle Laporte that we're talking about is an opportunity to be a leader, an opportunity to show people what it means to say, oops, I messed up, and here's how I'm going to handle this, or how I'm going to be a leader. And so even if something were to happen, like you're a leader. And so you get to step into whatever that is. And anything can become an opportunity for you to create leadership. And the other thing I was going to say around that is that if you think about like a hero's journey story that someone goes through, there's a low point and there's a turning point. And so if like what you were saying earlier, Jess, with like what you say triggers someone, or what you say does something that affects someone else, then that could be their turning point, and you don't know.
Yeah. And you don't know. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All
okay.
Right.
How many more archetypes do we have?
I know. We have three more.
We have
two more.
No, I was like two more.
Two more. Okay. How many archetypes do we have? I don't know.
That's okay. We're going to complete them because we're finishers.
Yeah, we're finishers. But that's okay. I feel like maybe we can go through them faster. Not that they're less important.
We were just supposed to talk about the sensitive soul, a lot. So I'm trusting, again, right? We trust in the highest good that y'all needed to hear the sensitive soul piece.
So do you want me to finish the other two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Are we
I don't want to leave people hanging.
Like we finish it all.
Yeah. Yeah, we can just briefly go over them, and then we can wrap up and share any final thoughts. And of course, we have you guys can go and take Adria's quiz.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we'll make sure you share that link, and of course, like I mentioned, will be in the show notes as well.
Totally. Yes. So so we have the Inspirer, which I feel like is very connected to the whole conversation we've been having. So this is the messenger who feels like they always have to show up perfect, or they always have to show up high vibe, or like a certain way in order for their people to follow them, in order for their people to buy from them, in order to be heard. And so it kind of can end up becoming this kind of golden cage of like, like I can't just be authentic, or I can't share something that's outside of that realm. And that realm might be like really bubbly and positive, or like really pretty pictures, or it might be always being like a disruptor, instigator, and saying things that are that way, and but they're feeling soft one day, you know? And so the inspirer shadow side is like kind of being in that cage, which makes them start to show up how they think that people want them to be, and then dampens like the message they have. Like there's not like really like the oomph, the thing that they care about in there anymore. And the superpower that they have is that people are really listening, that people engage with them, that people want to hear what they have to say, that they inspire people. They're on people's vision boards. And so I think that's really connected to a lot of the conversations we've been having today.
Yeah, I love that one. Good. Okay, and then what's the next?
And then the final one is the tactician. So this is like my health coaches and nutritionists and business strategists, the people who have like that expert brain, and like everyone sees them as the go-to person. I would call our bestie Melissa Harmon the tactician, and so it's like they've got all the information, but the shadow side can be that like having emotional resonance and kind of more of the like emotional pull people need to sign up for things, or to like really connect on a deeper level is not there as much. And what that can lead to is kind of being a number, being like people price shopping and kind of seeing like, okay, here are all the experts, who am I going to choose, versus like being like, I want you, or like I connect with you, you are my person.
Yeah. That's a big one for my work, is helping people to really connect to those parts of how they are energetically, showing up. And sometimes I feel like, I'm curious your thoughts on this one, like there's just an unlocking that needs to happen. Usually it's like, maybe they've been so used to being in their smart head achiever for so long that they are not as connected to the emotions or their body, which is part of the vessel that like helps us, emote authentically. That's one thing, but I just know like that piece has made all the difference for so many of my clients that are totally the experts, and it's just like awakening the parts of them that they might feel like they need to really just hold back.
Yeah. I find a lot of times for the tacticians that are my mastermind, they're someone who like, who doesn't really like thinks that their value is in their knowledge. And so that's what they share, or that's where they stay. They kind of like, that's their happy space, their safe space. And a lot of times they're like professionals, or like what they do has like a certain knowledge base behind it. And so they feel like stepping out or like sharing opinions or like other things would be like, it doesn't feel as comfortable or natural and normal, or they don't even think about it.
Right. Or they're like, oh, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Right. It doesn't matter. Or like other colleagues will judge me for it. So that's another big one I hear. And so like, yeah, that ends up like actually cutting off the connection. And they also have like what I call their expert hat on. And so a lot of times their messaging comes from the lens of that, so that like everything they're saying becomes very clinical or technical, and it doesn't land with their people. So a lot of times when I'm working with a tactician messenger type in my mastermind, a lot of times it is like helping them paint the narrative of their person from their person's shoes, like what's going on in their day, and like helping them like really visualize and get it on paper, because that creates so much more connection, and being like really super simple and concrete in their language versus like all their like tactical kind of like ways of saying things and doing things.
Yeah. And I think one thing that's super helpful to remember, and I'm guessing you probably say this all the time to your clients too, but it's like people don't pay for information, they pay for transformation. And in this, I know it's so bad. Power of the pause. In this day and age where like you can get information anywhere. There is all the information you could ever want. And what people want the most is the transformation, you know? And unless you're selling like the new spaceship that gets you to the moon in 2 seconds and back, like, and you can sell your information on how to build this machine, like, none of us are doing that, right? So like, that's like weird. I don't know where that came from. Don't mind me.
I love that example.
We're getting close to the full moons. Maybe I'm like, oh,
Maybe.
next week. So anyways, I wanted to share that thought. Like, people don't pay for information, they pay for inspiration, especially in this realm of or transformation. I think I said inspiration. This realm of coaching and being able to be a service-based leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Yay. That was so fun. So those are Adria's 5 messenger archetypes. I love them so much. So good. Make sure you guys go and take the quiz. You just want to provide the link real quick so you can say it out loud?
Totally. You can go to messengerquiz.com to take the quiz. Super simple. Messenger.
So good. You got that.
No, I bought like 3 links, you know when you get an idea and you like buy all the links that could possibly.
So good. Yeah. And then as we wrap up, I just love for you to share, like, what do you want most for people who are stepping into their messenger shoes?
What I want most for you, if you're stepping into your messenger self, your messenger archetype, just your messengership, is for you to realize that you don't have to change who you are to be a powerful messenger. And yeah, there are like, might be some shifts you can make in how you're conveying the message and some like things you can kind of move through. But it's not about changing who you are in order to have that message be delivered. And that a clear message cuts through the noise without having to raise your voice, change who you are, anything. So there's power in that.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Make sure you guys go to Adria's website, adriadecorte.com, to check out her services. She's amazing. She's a genius in messaging. I know.
And the podcast.
Oh yeah, and her podcast.
And the podcast, Unforgettable. So many things.
Unforgettable podcast, messenger archetype quiz. So many things. So I love you so much. Thanks for having this conversation with me. I'm really excited to hear what everyone has to say. Make sure to find us, you guys. Find us on social media. Drop us a line. Tag us in your Instagram stories. We'd love to hear what this episode brought up for you. And then if you did the quiz, make sure to tag us both too, because I'm super curious what your results are. And I'm sure Adria is as well. So, all right. And then all of the show links can be found. This is episode number 28 over at jessicatomlinson.com/show-28. So, bye guys. Thanks, Adria.
Thank you. Bye.